Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to 2A News Now. My name is Troy, and I really appreciate you taking your time tuning into my video. Every time there's a mass shooting, Joe Biden and his cronies call for an assault weapons ban. And that's exactly what happened on Monday after the shooting in Louisville, Kentucky. And I want to get this quote exactly right. Biden called gun control measures long overdue, urging Republicans in Congress to act in the wake of the mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky. He also said how much more gun violence needs to occur before Republicans agree to work on gun control measures, blaming the GOP for lack of action. How many more Americans must die before Republicans in Congress will act to protect our communities? It's long past time to require safe storage for firearms, require background checks for all gun sales, eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. We can and must do these things now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You could ban today so-called assault weapons, and nothing would change. These shootings will continue to happen unless you go after the root cause. And what is that most of the time? Mental illness. There's already a ton of gun laws on the books, and yet this still happens. No matter how many laws that you throw at it, it's still going to continue to happen. And a lot of these people who get these guns are getting them legally. So-called universal background checks would do nothing to stop most of these crimes. Because as we all know, criminals are criminals. They don't follow the law. They don't go to gun shows or gun shops and fill out background checks to buy firearms. They're either stolen off the streets or they have straw purchasers to purchase the firearms for them. But no matter how many times Biden and the Democrats say these things, the people on the left believe it. And then he talks about eliminating gun manufacturers' liability, which is another thing that's not true. If a firearm manufacturer makes a firearm and it's defective, they're allowed to be sued. They should be sued, especially if somebody was injured or killed. But for someone or someone's family to sue a gun manufacturer because of a person purchased a firearm legally and then turned around and used it in a crime is not the gun manufacturer's fault. And the only reason they want to be able to sue these gun manufacturers is to put them out of business, plain and simple. And then they use the words assault weapon or assault rifles. And they say they need to take those weapons of war off the street. And we all know that they're not weapons of war. They may look exactly like or very similar that is used by the military, but the civilian versions lack one thing that the military have, and that's what they call the fun switch, switching it to automatic. Civilian versions of AR-15s don't have that. You press the trigger, one round is fired, another round is loaded in the chamber, you let off your finger, and then you pull the trigger again and another round comes out. And if there's a 30-round magazine, you have to pull the trigger 30 times for those rounds to be shot out of the rifle. Nowhere close to what you guys call weapons of war, where they can pull the trigger and just hold it in until all those 30 rounds are expelled from that firearm. The Democrats do what they always do, and they lie to the American people. And the people are either stupid enough to believe them, or they don't know to go do their own research, which will only take you 5 to 10 minutes to figure out that they're lying to you. And then another thing I want to discuss, and I've seen this on social media, especially after a mass pew-pewing, where it's usually a young adult, and they're very upset what happened, and they should be. But they're saying the Second Amendment is outdated and needs to be updated and rewritten. And I say to you, it doesn't need to be updated or rewritten. It needs to be reread over and over again. It needs to be taught in our schools. And then those same people will say, nowhere in the Second Amendment does it say that you can have an AR-15. And then they'll show the Second Amendment on the screen and go, show me where it says you can have an AR-15. Isn't that the most stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life? Look, damn it, it's right here behind me. Let's take a look at it. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The people that wrote the Constitution, they were the best and brightest minds at the time. So of course they didn't list all the different firearms people are allowed to have. It says the word arms, meaning all arms. And Joe Biden has this thing that he says that people couldn't own cannons. They sure as hell could. And they did. Like I said, arms encompasses all arms. And of course when people bring that up, of course there's not going to be our AR-15 listed on there. It wasn't invented then. Here's another prime example of what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at the First Amendment. The First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. It says you have the freedom of religion, but it doesn't list any certain religions. So if these people saying AR-15s were not listed in the Second Amendment, let's switch that stupidity to the First Amendment. They didn't list Christianity there. So does that mean that Christians are not allowed to practice their faith? Of course not. And that's why it said religion. It's for all religions. And like I said earlier, as awful as these mass shootings are, it's not the guns that are the problem. It's the people that are the problem. It's mental illness is the problem. And a lot of times these people fall through the cracks. And believe me, I've seen it happen because I have two older brothers that have mental illness. And both were in the military. And it took an extremely long time for them to get the help that they needed. And my second older brother still struggles with it. And I haven't said anything about it. But last October, I found out that my older brother passed away. And he was struggling with it all the way until he passed away. And if by chance there was an assault weapons ban, and those certain firearms went away, like I said, those crimes are not going to go away. Those firearms will still exist, and then if those people can't get a hold of those particular firearms, they're just going to go to the next one. And then the Democrats will want to ban that certain type of firearm. And it's just a slippery slope until it gets to where the Democrats want to get to, and that's a ban on all firearms completely. And people like me and millions of others won't stand for it. As always, I would really like to hear comments about the story in the comment section down below. And I appreciate everybody's support. You guys are always crushing it by liking, sharing, and subscribing and hitting those post notifications after you watch the videos. And I invite everybody back to see my next video.